All right, Matty Riser. It is Matty versus Matt Kelly. Wrestle Mats one on one, mano e mano, Monday Night Wars, brother. WWE versus WCW mock draft. Are you ready?
No, I can't hear you. Are you ready? This is gonna
Hey,
be fun,
man.
man.
This is one of the biggest things that got me in and kept me in to wrestling as a kid. So I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, dude. And this is peak wrestling in a lot of people's, childhood, our childhood, or
Yeah.
you had 8 million people tuning in every week to watch wrestling on cable television. And we were part of that.
All right. Well, you ended up with the 101 here. So where are you heading with the 101?
You already know, can I get a hell yeah? That's right. Your Texas rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin in the WWE. Didn't do shit in WCW. Kind of an afterthought. Got his what? Got faxed his letter of being fired by
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff. And
Yeah.
what did he create? He create this megastar who might be the 101 of all of professional wrestling
All
ever.
time. Yeah.
Just crazy to think. And he only had this like kind of short run. What was it, like 96 to 02, really? Just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Austin's going to be another one of those for as incredible as he is and to be considered the GOAT. He is also kind of in that what if category, right? Like, what
Yeah.
if the injuries don't stack up? What if he doesn't take his ball and go home for a little bit there with the Brock Lesnar business and all that sort of thing? Like, you can just point to a couple of things and like, man, for as amazing as everything about Stone Cold is and was, could have potentially been bigger.
Right. Were you hooked like instantly when he was on your television screen when he
Oh,
started that kind of
oh,
edge?
oh, dude, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was like, when are mom and dad, can I give the middle finger? Are we good?
Oh,
Dude, everything about Austin was incredible. Yeah,
dude,
absolutely.
and it resonated like on every level for kids, for high schoolers, for parents telling their boss to fuck off. Like everything about this guy was cool as shit. So Stone Cold 101, definitely. I don't know if WWE would have survived the Monday Night War if they didn't have a Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Well, and how simple is the t-shirt that is still going Austin 316? So simple, but so amazing and as classic and will be probably donned throughout wrestling fandom time. And dude, when you sent me that you were taking Stone Cold at the 101, I was just like, God dang, son, you just took it. I was hoping you would like bypass him somehow, but
Nice
nonetheless,
pick,
man.
kid.
Yeah, exactly. With you going Stone Cold, I was left with like, okay, do I go singles or do I just nab the obvious faction that I want here? I had to nab the obvious faction and probably the antithesis, the whole reason that we even got the Monday Night Wars in the NWO for Live 2 suite. Uh, dude, Hogan, Hall, Nash, the Outsiders, Hollywood Hogan, this heel turn. You have to start with these guys when you think that, or when you talk about the Monday Night Wars, because without them, without this turn, without this faction, we probably never get it.
Dude, instant channel changing. TV. That got everybody who was a wrestling fan that didn't watch the other promotion over onto your TV. And you take three big, we're not talking about like mid-level guys that go over to WCW and just
Right.
take over. These are three guys that were in the main event of WWF programming at the time, dude. This to me was done so well. Everything about the invasion of these guys coming from WWF on your WCW television screens, pure magic.
Kind of what you said about Stone Cold too, though, is like NWO, their run wasn't necessarily all that big or all that long, rather. It was
Right.
big on impact, but wasn't that long. And they're kind of in the what if category for me, as in, what if they didn't water it down? What if you didn't have 30 guys in the NWO? What if you didn't have an NWO Wolfpack at some point? For as much as I love the NWO Wolfpack theme song, what if you just don't ever have that separate faction? So, incredible in impact. Again, maybe one of the best selling t-shirts of all time throughout the wrestling business, and is a lot of the reason why we have the current product that we have.
Yeah, just everything about the NWO, like it was white hot when it started, man. Like you can't take away that impact of how these three became household names because
Yeah.
of no matter what else they do. I mean, maybe you can make a case for Hulkamania, but I think he's just as well known as that heel turn you got at Bash at the Beach, and just the impact that Scott Hall using his name, not Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, guaranteed contracts. Everything about the Monday Night Wars would not have happened if you didn't have the dawning of the New World Order.
And
And now
the
I'm up at,
WW Yeah, I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say no, just that you're up at the 103 and you got to counteract that faction. So I kind of backed you into a corner a little bit, I think, with the 103.
Yeah, so it was tough drafting here because at 101 I feel like Stone Cold was the pick, but I was like, I'm not letting you have the NWO and DX. So I had to. There was no matter where I had DX. If you're gonna reach for a team, and I don't even think I reached, but DX, what you got just in the early incarnations of attitude,
Mhm.
something that a lot of people weren't doing, but they weren't just attitude. It was risky. It was different. It was showing your ass. It was telling people to suck it. So much of DX is what still follows everybody. It's how you build a group, build a faction. Having China in a time where women's wrestling wasn't really a thing, she was just as many eyes on her as Shawn Michaels or Triple H. I think all around, like this faction build superstars. Not only that, like was a perfect combatant to the NWO.
I just realized I think we're also in a T-shirt draft here, Maddie, because Generation X with another classic wrestling fan T-shirt. Man, I mean everybody with that classic X and just Degeneration across the
Oh,
front, dude. The intro, the song, the Titantron, the glow sticks, all of the antics from Road Dogg and from Billy Gunn there. The
so
New
good.
Age Outlaws and their entrance. I mean, you got the cross chops. You got everything. And this is a faction where two top guys, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, ended up taking other talent and making them as well. So, I mean, these dudes on kind of Judgment Day esque just in terms of they're on your TV 4, 5, 6 times a night, throughout Monday Night Raw. And I think they're really part of the uh, part of the big reason why we still have factions the way that we have factions in wrestling today.
Yeah, I mean that's how you do it. You hook your wagon to somebody and it
Yep.
elevates you. And I think WWE did it. I mean, look at these guys: Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Rockabilly, the Roadie, 1, 2, 3 Kid. Like
Yeah.
before this Attitude Era, like none of these guys were maybe in your mid card, but they were floundering. So to see, and then you see Shawn Michaels as a babyface right before this starts, and he's getting booed. Like it's just not working. And I think these guys came around at the right time, right place, right time. Like we said, combating NWO. I think NWO is far away, the 102. But DX here, I wasn't going to let you have both factions.
Well, just in the way that you weren't going to let me have both factions, I wasn't going to let you have this guy along with Stone Cold Steve Austin either. And I think what we're seeing right now is basically that picks 1 through 4 were pretty
Oh,
solidified. It was just a matter of how we were going to interchange them and how we were going to make sure that the other one didn't get too much,
right.
firepower on their side. So I end up, if you smell, check your candy
Yeah.
ass into the SmackDown hotel.
Oh,
I am, of course, taking The Rock. I mean, dude, just way too many contributions in this era to like. There's no way I could have let him drop any further. Could have easily argued him there at the 101 or the 102. I mean, uh, right there in the conversation with Stone Cold Steve Austin for one of the goats.
absolutely. The most electrifying man in sports entertainment. What I remember is those promos, dude.
The
Fire,
promos, the
fire,
promos.
so good. And I think his heel work is better than his face work. Like, and his face work's amazing. Like, that's just how good The Rock is on both. He can do it all. He's that good, and that's why it's translated to Hollywood. That's why you see these part timers that do come back to WWE, like The Rock, and it becomes must see TV. But The
Hmm.
Rock, dude, like 104, like easily can make a case for 101 just by how good this guy is. But The Rock, dude, you don't have to sell me on the right Rock. He's up there for sure.
Dude, his mic skills are certainly unparalleled. I mean, his ability to transform himself into making fun of somebody to being serious to, selling you on a feud, whatever the case may be, you can put him out there for anything, and it's gonna be a grand slam, just literally every single time with The Rock. He's got he's got the rock bottom, he's got the people's elbow. He's got the strudel. He's got the pie. Like whatever you want, man. The Rock is going to deliver out there in the Monday Night War. So you got it 105, buddy.
Dude, this one was another one. Like I felt like when you think of this era, he hooked you. He was on your television and you hated his fucking guts for every reason, and it worked, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. I got him as a wrong pick here. It should have been 103, should have been 105. But
Yeah.
Vince McMahon, dude, like it just life imitating art. You can just tell this guy's a piece of shit that you hate, but he's also a genius. And dude, him and Stone Cold were perfect. Then you had him as a corporation with The Rock, and he was just somebody you love to hate. And that's what personified Vince McMahon. It's maybe what WCW kind of didn't have, is that you have that Vince McMahon rivalry with Stone Cold that just ignites WWF.
It was going to be my counter. If you didn't take him at 105, he was my clear cut next pick.
Right.
Had you not taken him. So you can't say Austin without saying Vince. You really can't even say The Rock without saying Vince. Like everything about that era and that time frame ends up being tied in some way to Vince. And I mean, you end up with the storyline with him and Shane, right? And Shane going over to buy, showing up on WCW and saying like, this is my company now. So you got that angle too. And for as much as, I hope people are recognizing that we are separating the person from the subject matter that we're talking about, and just what Vince meant to this particular era of programming. For as much as we're like, without the NWO, I would also argue without Vince, we don't get this either, because you hear about the 83 weeks all the time, right, of the Monday Night Wars, where WCW had taken over first place in terms of programming. And so Vince had to figure out a way to turn it around, and he damn sure did it.
When he elevated The Rock, Triple H, Mick Foley, everybody around him, the Big Show, it didn't
Super
matter.
important.
It was almost like you hook your rocket to him. That gave you that credibility in the Monday Night Wars. And I think, like you said, we can go on and on about just how important he has been to the wrestling business. There's definitely, you're never going to hear any contradiction to that.
Well, I'm surprised my next pick made it as far as he did, Matty, but at the 106, I had to take, of course, the icon, the franchise, my dude, the Stinger. And for as he may have, I mean, Hogan probably has the biggest, most important transformation. I would argue Sting is maybe 1B, or at least number 2, because if he's just run-of-the-mill Surfer Sting, he's still a fun character. He's still a fun guy to watch. But without the Crow Sting version that we're getting, that you're watching here, if you're following along on YouTube, without this particular version of Sting, you don't get that combativeness to the NWO. You don't get this new version, this anti-hero sort of guy that everybody is intrigued by. And he is what you needed to rival NWO, to rival Hogan, to give you that formidable person that everyone has rooted interest in.
It's Sting. It's crazy. We're 106 now. All these characters had drastic changes in their personas. Like 1 through 6, whether it was Vince McMahon, whether it was the Rocky Maivia, Stunning Steve Austin, all these guys have transformed so much by 98, 99, whatever. And it worked. It all worked. Something that's probably not done a lot anymore, which is crazy to think about, just how all this kind of just worked. It was like the perfect storm of everything, really. But Sting, dude, dropping from the rafters, that ominous, less is more. It worked. Everything about Sting. Surfer Sting, I loved. But you have Crow Sting with the bat. How do you take out the NWO by yourself?
Yeah. I mean, it's lightning in a bottle, because you have a character who, in this WCW, WWE Monday Night Wars, it's very in your face, right? Like everybody, everything is very in your face. Their Sting is sitting just by himself, stoic in the rafters, not say, dude, he didn't talk for months,
And
4
it worked.
months, and people were and it worked.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I don't think you could ever do it again.
Yeah. I think everything was, it was perfect. Like it was just what kind of as pop culture needed to evolve
Yeah,
from, we needed something else, at least in pro wrestling, that wasn't cartoony, I guess would be the worst, more realism. And
sure.
that's what you've got. And you got somebody who, had their basically the company turned their back on,
Yeah,
thinking he was a fake Sting or whatever. And it just, I wish we would have gotten more run out of Sting in WCW. I hate to say it like that, because he was literally the icon, the face of the franchise. But I
yeah.
think there was even more depth to explore with Sting if NWO wouldn't have ruined it.
Yeah, that's fair to say, and really no fault of his own. To your point, set us off here, Matty, on the back half of this draft with the 107.
Yeah, so this is where it's really just preference. There's not a real 107 to 112. I think you could throw in about 20 names, 10 names at least. And to me, I went for like impact of me and just the wrestling as a whole is, sex sells. And we saw that sell on WWE programming for like the next 15 years. And I think kind of Sable was the most, maybe the start of that, the Playboys, everything about it, the Sable bombs, what got me kind of grounded from watching wrestling for a hot minute. Yeah, Sable was maybe something that WCW didn't really capitalize on. They had the Nitro girls, but Sable definitely left her mark with the black leather, with the cat, everything about it. Like she was must see TV, and she was doing literally nothing but showing her body.
Yeah, it's wild to think that there was an era of programming that was literally just geared towards specifically what you just said. And look, I think, time and place makes for everything. It's lightning in a bottle that we just talked about. Obviously, you can't necessarily do, you can't replicate this type of programming in today's era. But I do think there is a place in today's era for women to be seen as looking great and looking attractive, but also being strong, but being great in the ring. But this, to your point, was literally just like eyeballs to the television for nothing but whatever she was wearing that week.
Yeah, and it worked. It worked because it hadn't been done before,
You're
and
right.
it was the time frame. It was the Jerry Springer.
I was literally going to say Jerry Springer.
And
Yeah.
that's what you do when you get all these people that are horny teenagers, or they're kids, or they're even adults that have never seen anything like on this.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna hook you. You can't help it. This is the dawning of, really real TV. So it was just different, man. It was, like I said, I don't know if Sable would hold up at all today. I'm not gonna chance it with Brock Lesnar.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, she served her purpose. Right place, right time.
Yep, right place, right time, absolutely. And I'm going to go in a completely opposite direction. It's somebody that we just talked about and somebody that just retired this past weekend, and that is Bill Goldberg. Very much right place, very much right time, right company, all the things. It took a minute to get somebody else other than Sting right to kind of be to be a real true foe, I think, to the NWO, and Goldberg absolutely presented that. And WCW did a really smart thing in taking this guy and just having him dominate literally everybody, win some sort of crazy ass, number of matches. It was like 170, 171, whatever it was, before he lost. But he just ran through everybody in a fashion that will never, ever be replicated, because I just don't think it would ever really ever work again at this point. But Goldberg, dude, he was must-see TV, because if you blink, you miss it. It's done. It's over. You don't have time to flip the channel. You have to stay glued to Goldberg.
When it held up to his career, man, like that's all you needed from him. It worked. It was the perfect storm. The intro, the spear jackhammer. You don't need to see him wrestle a match. You don't want to.
Nope.
This was your 90s Ultimate Warrior, basically. It was intro. It was a couple moves in the ring, and you're done. And that was perfect. And because that undefeated streak, man, like that was one of the greatest things WCW ever did. Like it just worked so well. Everything about it. I don't know, like you said, if it would hold up today or how you would do it.
Yeah.
But I do love the aspect of having somebody undefeated just run through people. I think it gives you that shock and awe that you need. And in the night, and with the NWO, dude, money. That was perfect. 108, I love it.
Well, and you have the NWO being brash and loud and just intrusive to everything else that's going on, and then Goldberg kind of Austin-esque, just in that he just walks down, black trunks,
Yep.
kicks ass, leaves.
That's all you
Austin,
need.
Austin obviously way better on the mic,
Yeah.
especially as time went over, but similarity in that aspect that he was just there to kick ass, man, every single time, looking for a fight always. So who you got at 109, Matty?
Yep, 109. Somebody else who's maybe not kicking ass, but getting his ass kicked. Oh, Mickey Foley. Everything Mick Foley did was it's cringe. Like his ring work. We were talking about Daniel Bryan's SummerSlam match, how physical he is in the ring. Mick Foley took it to 300% more of a level than Daniel Bryan's ever done. But Mick Foley, man, like you could go through his 3 faces of Foley, Dude Love, Mankind, Cactus Jack. Like he had something for everybody. And I think it worked. Like everything about it. He had the comedy skit. He had the hardcore wrestling, promos, anything he did was great. You can't think of the Attitude Era and that, him winning the WWE Championship for the first time. You can't think of anything like this happen, with Mick Foley. It's perfect here.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously you end up having ECW and things of the like, but I don't think you get this run of kind of violence throughout this time period of wrestling without Mrs. Foley's baby boy and Mick Foley. I mean, you touched on so many different aspects that Mick Foley brought to all of this, but I would argue that he is somebody that it's kind of incredible, actually. Like, for as much as he got his ass kicked, people never lost faith in Mick Foley. They always wanted to see Mick Foley on their TV. They always believed in him. And I don't think you can point to anybody else, maybe throughout wrestling history, that's put their body through more than Mick Foley. So, man, I think he is a key cog that is maybe overlooked in the Monday Night Wars and kind of sustaining this brand of wrestling.
When I think his character work, like even his early days of Mankind, like you'd never seen anybody who could really, I think he was really the Undertaker's first real foe that you were kind of like, okay, he's demented, he's psycho enough. And then bringing that, ECW style with Cactus Jack, where, he comes from these Japanese death matches and all this crazy shit. I mean, dude, just Mick Foley, like peak Mick Foley was on a different level.
Yeah, 110% agree. And I find myself here at the 110, staying on the WCW side of things. It's not really the way that I planned for this draft to go, but I just couldn't keep turning down WCW guys. And so I had to go with DDP. Of course, I was glad to see him out in the crowd for Goldberg's retirement match this past week on Saturday night's main event. DDP looking sharp, man, looking trim out there with the DDP yoga and all the programs that he's got going on. But, man, a late bloomer to the wrestling game itself. Obviously, a big on-screen presence in the 80s and the 90s. But, man, it wasn't really almost until these Monday Night Wars started hitting before Diamond Dallas Page was a major factor. And, dude, he became a huge player throughout the Monday Night Wars.
Dude, and that's something I'm noticing, like on this list, there wasn't, like when you're thinking of WCW, there are not a lot of big name faces because everybody joined NWO, and that was the cool thing.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of, so when you do have a Goldberg or a Sting or a DDP, they make quite an impact.
Right.
Because people are going to get tired of the NWO, especially the way it was watered down.
Yeah.
But DDP he had that sizzle you want. And then like we talk about RKO out of nowhere, the way he would do the diamond cutter to people, like, Oh my God, like that was innovative. You don't see people do finishes like DDP did back in the day, like the reversals and just where he would come with you from that DDP, that diamond cutter, like legendary.
Dude, he had the Nirvana, not Nirvana
Oh
intro. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And so,
you forget about that shit like crazy. Ding, da,
but he
ding.
comes. I mean, he gets the crowd, with the hand gesture and the diamond. So like, dude, he just had the crowd in the palm of his hand, and it is kind of like the early days of the RKO out of nowhere, right? Like you never knew when he was going to hit the diamond cutter, and you believed when he hit it that was it. That was the match, man. It was lights out, and he ends up becoming, a world champion late into his wrestling career, or his career in general, later in age, that is.
Yeah.
And so DDP, man, was really, really important to WCW success.
Dude, so many like key moments with him, whether it was, the first person to turn down the NWO, or, what was the movie, Ready to Rumble? So many like he was a key moment of that too. There was so much greatness with DDP, and what he's done, post wrestling is even more, I think, just as legendary. But 111, this is a hard one, because as we're kind of strolling through here, I think he gets left off a lot of lists for being as good as he is. And it's just because WWE is just deep, and the Undertaker's been around so long. So at 111, I felt like I needed to do him some justice, because this is a lot of good character work in the Attitude Era. You don't just see the Undertaker. You see the Ministry of Darkness Undertaker. Yeah. You see the American Badass Undertaker. So and you still get the OG Undertaker, which works every week. We've already seen. But I think just the feud he had, with Shawn Michaels, and then you move it over to Kane, which is another one. And then it just keeps going, like Stone Cold, like he was interchangeable with anybody. And it just showed over his career that just, dude, the Undertaker during this time, though, I think this is when I really appreciate just how much change he made into his own character.
Yeah, I think you said it best there, is that you could literally throw him out there with anyone, and you knew you were getting one hell of a match. You were getting one hell of a program, and it just it didn't matter what version of the Undertaker he shifted into. You still had that realm of mystique, that went along with the Undertaker. Yeah. And so when you're able to carry that through not only all of the programming, but all of the character changes as well, and reinvent yourself in that way, you have something that nobody else has on WCW or the WWE side. He is one of one. And I literally started thinking about taking him, around the 106. And I was like, okay, but there's these WCW guys left, and I'm having to account for them. And, I'm accounting for your team as well. You know what I mean? So I think he could have went as early as then.
Well, it's so hard because he had good 25 years of a lasting impact on wrestling. So sometimes when you see somebody so much, you kind of forget just the importance of them.
Yeah.
So to me, Undertaker, like I said, it's a flavor that, never gets old. It's like vanilla or chocolate. You're always going to go back to it. At 112, to round us off, Matt Kelly, what's in the bag?
I had such a difficult time, Matty, and I meant to ask you beforehand, and the more I thought about it, I think the answer is no, because I almost went with Eric Bischoff. But then I was like, oh, is he NWO? Because he was, there for a hot minute running with the NWO, but I was like, I think we just keep it to the original three. But then I'm like, definitely not Vince McMahon. so I couldn't. It felt like the worst version of Vince McMahon. You know what I mean? So I ended up not taking Bischoff, but he was definitely in consideration. But I went there with the total package. You see him on the screen, Lex Luger. Dude, that portion of 97, 98, Luger was, oh man. I mean, he may have been top of WCW. He was right there neck and neck with basically anybody in the company. And it's a shame he's another what if, injuries and all the things, don't end up shortening Lex's career. But man, he was just, dude, the bodybuilder, physique out there and doing the things that he did. He had a very unique finish in the torture rack. I think there's a lot of great things that are probably overlooked about Lex Luger.
Yeah, total package. I think it was different. It was something like, this dude's got a 15 pack. rack. Like you see
Yeah.
layered. This looks like columns of abs. But you can't hate. And dude, the torture rack, and just I remember he was one of the first ones to really take the title off of Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So you remember that, and just him and Sting, dude, like it was like perfect tandem.
Yeah.
I think at 112, like there you can't hate on Luger. Was he necessarily the main attraction? No, but he was a great role player to this kind of. You always saw him featured on TV. He had the look, he had the, everything about him screamed, WCW. And sometimes that's what you needed with the NWO being as, relevant on TV every single segment of week is you needed somebody to chop down, the giant.
Yeah, glad he got his rightful place there in the WWE Hall of Fame. Manny, I told you Eric Bischoff was in consideration for me for that last pick. Did you have any sort of honorable mention or somebody that you were kind of teetering with your last pick?
Yeah, there was a couple. Kane was definitely one. I was like, I was thinking maybe you were going to go Kane 112 after I went Undertaker.
Again, it's like the worst version of Undertaker. It was like, the reason I didn't go Bischoff either.
Yeah, and it's like one of those, like, Kane's still early in his career, but it's something different. It's just weird, Kane was the one that I thought about. I also thought, like, the Giant was kind of Big Show, but he was so prevalent on both TVs. Right. I think that's the one thing that was really cool about him. I was in Mystique when he was in WCW because he was different. You hadn't really seen a Giant like him.
Yeah.
And then when he first came to WWE, I think they did a good job like that first year, and then, So, yeah, just a couple guys. But I think you're, like you kind of said, from like 108 to 115 is really interchangeable. That's kind of the sweet spot. Or maybe not. You want one of those top 6, 7 picks. And then after that, it's just kind of your, flavor of the week.
Yeah, the last person who I thought about, and I didn't know how to like fit in because we had talked about the NWO, and again, he's kind of like he stems off of the NWO a little bit, but he brought in such a pop culture preference or viewership, and that's Dennis Rodman. And I know that's like it's weird to think about him as being like a key cog in this Monday night, but dude, he was prevalent. And he was in all the mixes. Dude, he was leaving the NBA finals to fucking come do WCW television. So that's a wild place to think about that wrestling is so popular that you have a premier athlete that says, no, this is my priority right now. I need to be here for the Monday Night Wars.
One more that would have been kind of cool. Could we just draft the whole cruiserweight division?
Oh, yeah.
Like, man. All in we're probably, one pick? Like,
we probably deserve shit for that, quite frankly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if that was a problem, you can't just draft Rey Mysterio. You can't draft Conan or Chris Jericho, Psychosis. I mean, Ultimo Dragon. For undercard wrestling, like this put, wrestling on the map was the cruiserweight division and really evolved how we watch wrestling as an American audience. So 100%. I think that's you can't honorable mention. Or like I said, we might have fucked up and they should have been 106.7. But regardless, like cruiserweight, Monday Night Wars changed the tone of pro wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see it when Jericho shows up to WWE programming, eventually, just how big of an impact he had. All right, that's going to wrap us up for this Monday Night War WWE versus WCW draft. Where did we hit? Where did we mess up? Drop us a comment. Let us know at WrestleMats. We'll see you next time.